Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I'm here to bring us the retrospective to Hermansson versus Vettori and the look ahead to UFC 256, where Figueiredo defends his belt again, back-to-back UFC events, against this time Moreno for the 125-pound flyweight title. All right, let's talk about last week though. Went 6-2, great overall, 1-1 on the Patreon, landed in the money with Patreon picks for Jake Collier, missed Jack Hermansson, and we had one that fell off from our normal 3 picks. So, we did solid on the Patreon, always landing in the money, and if you'd like to get those picks as well, head on over to Patreon in the description box below, and you can support the show at a dollar amount that makes the most sense to you. But let's get into it, let's talk about it, here's the show. All right, so let's kick things off with one of the ones we got wrong. Unfortunately, Jack Hermansson was just outdone by Marvin Vettori. I thought that Hermansson could have dealt with everything Vettori threw at him, and I thought Hermansson did have the slight edge on the ground, but unfortunately this thing stayed standing, and Hermansson's best shots could not rock Vettori. Vettori's output was outstanding. He managed to knock Hermansson down early on in the fight and just looked really solid overall, and even stuffing Hermansson's takedowns. He did score 2 overall, however, it was not enough to outdo Vettori that night. He was outstruck 164 to 122, and it just is what it is. I made a bad call on this one. Vettori did look every bit as good as anybody else in the 185-pound division, and I really want to see more out of him. It was a tough call, and unfortunately we got it wrong, but we did get a lot right tonight, so let's try to emphasize that. The next one here, Jamal Hill defeats OSP. This is one we got correct, with Jamal Hill picking up a knockout in the second round at 3 minutes 37 seconds. He looked good. He was outstriking OSP, outstruck him about 2-1, and had the power to back it up, putting out a guy who's very hard to knock out in OSP out for the count. So good call by us. We got that one correct. And the next one we got correct as well. Gabriel Benitez defeats Justin James. In this one here, Benitez just looked a lot better, a lot faster, a lot sharper, a lot more aggressive than I thought James did, and ultimately he picks up another knockout, getting performance of the night money along with Jordan Levitt, who we'll get to a little bit later, and also fight of the night money with Vettori and Hermansson. But solid performance out of him is one we were able to call correctly, and I was proud of that one. Another one is able to call correctly. Roman Dolidez defeats John Allen. In this one here, it was a split decision, but I thought it was a bad split. I thought it was Dolidez unanimous, and his wrestling was there. John Allen's just tough as hell. Dolidez, I think, needs to get a little bit better, get a little more violent out there, but he had really good control of the ground situations, had really good control of the striking on the feet. And I didn't see anything out of Allen that made me think that he was going to potentially win this one, except for the one takedown that he did score, which is probably the reason he got the split decision. But I don't think he did enough with it, and Dolidez proved that he is a great competitor at light heavyweight, having a good gas tank as well, which is a little bit hard to find at a 205-pound division. Moving on to the next one, Jordan Levitt defeats Matt Wyman. Another one that we got correct. Levitt goes out there, slams Wyman to the ground. One of the most brutal knockouts that I've probably ever seen in the UFC. Wyman basically tries to pull guard as Levitt has him in the air. Levitt gets his forearm right across the chin as he slams to the mat, and he picks up the slam TKO, one of the few in the UFC, 22 seconds into the fight. Levitt said he wants to go have his kid, and he'll be back sometime in February. I'd like to see him bounce back a little faster. I know Dana would too after a performance like that, but I can't blame the guy. He's got a family on the way, and his holidays are going to be a little bit brighter, especially with the 50 Gs that he picked up in this one. Moving on to the other one we got wrong on the night, Luis Smolka defeats Jose Quinones. In this one here, I thought Jose was beating Smolka. It was close. Quinones was being slightly outstruck, but did have good takedowns, looked good overall. But Smolka was just able to change up the positioning on Quinones and pick up a ground and pound victory, basically by taking the back as things went to the mat, and picked up a solid win. So we counted Smolka out in this one. I thought things were going in Quinones' way, but that is the wildness that is MMA. It's sometimes hard to predict these things. And then the last two we got correct as well. Ila Latopria defeats Damon Jackson. Topria is looking like a phenomenal product, a very young guy. I think he's only 23 years old. Goes out there, picks up a solid knockdown and then a TKO finish in the featherweight division at 2 minutes 38 seconds into round number 1. And then the last one, this was kind of a drag-out knockdown fight. Jake Collier just manages to defeat, edge out John Vellante. Vellante's a veteran. He's tough as hell. He put a lot of good shots on Collier, but Collier was able to absorb all of them and land about 50 additional ones back, outstriking him 123-80, which landed us in the money for Patreon that night. So we had an awesome night overall, 75% accuracy, 6-2. Let's try to keep that momentum and move things forward to UFC 256. All right, so we're going to start with the main event where Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be taking on the baby assassin, Brandon Moreno. And in this one here, I think it is going to be a close fight, but as we saw with what Figueiredo brings to the table last week, this guy is dangerous everywhere. He loads up his right hand. He's obviously got great grappling off of that transition we saw last week. I think that this guy has all of the skills, and despite what I think are going to be Moreno's best efforts, he doesn't have enough power. I think his grappling is going to be neutralized, and I do not see him getting a win here. Granted, he did have a good outing against Moreno Royval, but it's been mostly a decision machine and had kind of a tough run back a few years ago with Pantoja and Pettis. Now, obviously, time's gone by, but I got to just say honestly here, I think Figueiredo is going to be here to stay. He's winning in excellent fashion, 4 straight stoppages, okay? So he had the Tim Elliott stoppage, first round guillotine choke, and then back-to-back stoppages against Joseph Benavides, and then obviously the stoppage last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, against Alex Perez. This guy is on a hot streak right now. He's going to probably have the record of most consecutive or quickest consecutive title defenses in the UFC, and I don't know if anybody's ever going to beat that record, if I'm honest. Deiveson Figueiredo is your champion here to stay. He's going to be the pick on Saturday. All right, this next one here, we're going to have Charles Oliveira taking on El Cucuy himself, coming to avenge his loss against Justin the Highlight Gaethje. And in this one here, you know what I'm going to say. Fergie Ferg gonna love you long time, because Tony Ferguson is the pick on Saturday. I know, obviously, that he was battered quite badly by Justin Gaethje, and it is a fairly quick turnaround considering how bad he was beat up. However, Charles Oliveira's hands are not Justin Gaethje's hands. He is primarily a grappling artist, 19 submissions over 29 wins, does have 8 knockouts, let's not get around it, but mostly Oliveira likes to go to the mat. He has a higher takedown rate, higher submission rate than Ferguson, but Ferguson is competent on the ground. It was the entire belief of how he would potentially defeat Khabib was to, win off his back, to score, elbows from the bottom, to out-grapple one of the greatest MMA grapplers. Now, I know Charles Oliveira, Do Bronx, is a outstanding submission grappler, but I gotta side with Tony Ferguson here. I think that he was beat by training for a different kind of guy for so long in Khabib and then getting thrown Gaethje, and I think it was a little bit of a fluke. However, just to kind of throw it in my face here, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight win streak for Oliveira, with guys like Kevin Lee on that list, Daniel Tamor, Nick Lentz, solid guys. But has he fought a guy like Ferguson just yet? No, not really. And he did lose to Paul Felder back in 2017. So honestly, when you put all this together, including a loss to Anthony Pettis and Max Holloway, I think that Do Bronx falls short of the best, and Ferguson is going to pick up a win here. And then what will happen after that? It's hard to say. Could he fight the winner of Conor versus Poirier? I think that's certainly a possibility, and I can even see it being for a lightweight title, rather. So we'll see how things go there. Tony Ferguson, El Cucuy is going to be your pick in what I believe is the true main event. All right, moving on to the next one here. We're going to have Renato Moicano taking on Rafael Fiziev. And in this one here, it is going to be an excellent contest. Nobody can tell me otherwise. However, I think Renato is just a little bit better. Granted, he did have difficulty against Korean Zombie and Jose Aldo, but he picked up a great win against Damir Hadzovic, and I think he's going to be able to defeat a guy without a lot of MMA experience in Rafael Fiziev. Fizev's just recently come into the UFC, does have a good win against Mark Jacasey, but did struggle a little bit in his early days, losing in his outing via spinning back fist to Magomed Mustafa. And honestly, I think Renato has the experience here to outdo a guy that's so inexperienced. in Figueiredo. Now, Moicano himself, just 14-3. Let's not beat around it. But I think that he is grappling. 7 submissions over 14 wins would be enough to outdo a guy who does on occasion go for some takedowns. I think that he's got a position here where he can win. I do like the Brazilian in this one. We're going with Moicano. All right, this next one here is going to be a firefight because we have Jacare taking on Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is on a hot streak right now, and honestly, Jacare is not on the best run of things with back-to-back losses to Blachowicz and Hermansson. Yes, he did defeat Weidman, but that was back about, actually now over 2 years ago, and before that had lost to Gastelum. He's also 41 years of age, and I gotta say that the 28-year-old prime-time trailblazing Kevin Holland looks like the better pick right now. 4 straight wins, Anthony Hernandez, Joaquin Buckley, Darren Stewart, and Charles Ontiveros. His last loss was in 2019. It was via submission, so just keep that in mind. He has been submitted before, twice over his 5 losses, but never knocked out and lost 3 decisions. I think Jacare's big key to victory here is obviously his grappling, although you can't really overlook his hands. He did actually knock out Weidman, so that's always in his back pocket. But honestly, I think Holland's chin doesn't have the miles of Weidman's at this point. I do not see him being susceptible to being knocked out by Jacare. I think the only way Jacare wins this one is by taking it to the ground, which I do not think is going to happen. I think Holland, with his very rangy game, let's bear in mind that he has a 9-inch, that's right, 9-inch reach advantage over Jacare. I think it's going to keep him at bay. His striking is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be there. He's going to keep him off of him, and he's going to stay away from Jacare's ground game by using the jab, by using the footwork, by kickboxing him up all night. And so Kevin Holland is the pick on Saturday. All right, this next one here is going to be a heavyweight fight, and it's a heavyweight showcase because we have JDS, Junior Dos Santos, taking on kind of up-and-comer Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is a French mixed martial artist who trains with Francis Ngannou, and he has Francis Ngannou level scary power and physique. This guy, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions over 6 wins. I think he's actually even a little better well-rounded, honestly, than Ngannou, having some of the submission game, getting a heel hook against Dontel Mays back in 2019. This guy swings heavy hands. We know that Junior has a lot of miles on the chin at this point, suffering 6 TKO or KO losses over his 8. And so, honestly, unless he's going to be able to fight this thing really intelligently, I do not see him getting a win. Gane is only 6-0, so his IQ isn't quite there. He's only had to go the distance actually one time in his entire UFC career against Tanner Boser in the last outing, but he looked dominant in that one. Can he step up to the challenge in Dos Santos? I think he can. We gotta see him prove that he can't do it before I'm ready to side with Dos Santos here. Where I think, honestly, the best years and best days are behind for him. The best ahead are for Cyril Gane. And for Gane, that's who we're picking on Saturday. All right, this next one here is a tough one for me because I had a mental pick, and then I crunched it, and I got a different pick. So, Mackenzie Dern is taking on Virna Jandiroba. Now, I want to pick Dern in this one. She's proven that her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been extremely effective, except, against fighters like Amanda Ribas. Now, Virna Jandiroba, also Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and a lot more MMA experience here. I got to side with Virna Jandiroba. Even though I think if this thing goes to the ground, we could see Dern have an advantage. But Jandiroba's got 13 MMA submissions over 16 wins, and we know that Dern doesn't have the best hands. So I honestly gotta say that this thing is going to be Jandiroba. Does Dern have the better gi grappling background? Yeah, I think so. I couldn't find much on Jandiroba that made me think otherwise, but this is a non-gi situation. This is MMA Jiu-Jitsu. This is combat Jiu-Jitsu, and I think Jandiroba actually has the leg up here. She's got back-to-back wins against Madeline Martin and Felice Herring, and this will be one of her biggest challenges in a while. Granted, she did fight Carla Esparza, but I think Dern is a good up-and-comer, a really great prospect that I think you cannot overlook her, but I think she's going to have a deficit here. I think when it comes to the MMA-style grappling, Jandiroba may have an advantage. She's proved it in the past, and so that's what we're going off of here. So it's tough. I want to pick Dern in my heart of hearts, but Jandiroba is the call, so we're going to stick with it by the numbers. All right, the next one here, we're going to have the veteran, kind of a legend of the recent years at the featherweight division, Cub Swanson taking on Daniel Pineda. And in this one here, I hate to say it, but I do not have Swanson. I have Pineda. Cub Swanson has been in a real tough bind lately. I think he also tore his ACL doing submission grappling, so we don't know how he's going to bounce back with the ring rust, having not fought in a year. He did fight Kron Gracie and win, but Daniel Pineda does not have the greenness of Kron Gracie. He's a 27-13 mixed martial artist, and I think he's going to bring it to Swanson, who has just about as many fights. But when I look back on Swanson's record, it's those 4 losses that really make me wonder if he still has it. Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano was also on the card, and then Shane Burgos. So honestly, he's not looking great recently, and I think that Pineda coming out of the PFL is looking really good. Got his win over Herbert Burns, knocking him out. Herbert is not his brother Gilbert, but I think he's going to be enough for Cub Swanson, and so we're going with Pineda in this one. All right, the next one here, I don't have anything, but Tisha Torres, she was supposed to fight Angela Hill. That fight was canceled. I guess they're looking for a partner for Torres. Right now, it's supposed to be an LFA fighter. I'm not really, I don't want to say it because I don't know if it's official yet. We'll actually probably post something about that one, but as of right now, I'm going to leave her off of it, and we're going to move on to Chase Hooper. So Chase Hooper is going to be taking on Peter Barrett, and the much younger, Ben Askren lookalike out there, I think, is our projected winner in this one. Granted, Hooper did get derailed by Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy in his last outing, but he looked really good coming in, knocking out Daniel Tamor right away. Kid's only 21 years of age, and he's going to be taking on another veteran, so he's got to be careful in this one. Barrett is 34 years of age, but only 11-4, coming off a loss to Youssef Zalal, and only just coming out of the Dana White Contender Series. So as far as, level of competition, both these guys have limited experience in the UFC, which is something Caceres, actually does have his experience in the UFC. And so I think Hooper has a better chance in this one. We've seen good stuff out of him thus far. He is aggressive. I'm hoping he's a little more developed. He's still only 21 years of age. He's going to get better with time. I hope it's not too much too soon, but ultimately he's going to be the pick on Saturday. All right, we are down to the last 2 here with Billy Quartaniero taking on Gavin Tucker. And in this one here, I honestly like Quartaniero just a little bit more. Both these fighters look phenomenal right now. We do have the one kind of outward loss with Rick Glenn with Quartaniero, but he has been on a fight streak otherwise. 12-1. Quartaniero is 15-2, having not lost since 2016. And both of these fighters are going to be coming at it looking really good, honestly, recently. It's been, hard to stop Quartaniero ever since he came in off the Dana White Contender Series. Has amazing hands, has really solid grappling, and honestly, it's the same story for Tucker. This one is hard to make an actual call in, but I am going to go ahead and stick with Quartaniero in this one. It's razor thin, but Billy's your kid. All right, and in the last one here, we have Sergey the Polar Bear Spivak taking on Jared Vanderaa. And in this one here, I like Vanderaa. He looked really good coming off the Dana White Contender Series, but take it with a grain of salt because he is coming out of the Dana White Contender Series. Spivak's been in the UFC for a moment. Win-loss, win-loss. Lost to Walt Harris in his debut, beat Tai Tuivasa, lost to Tai Burra, and then came back and beat Carlos Felipe via majority decision. So it's a close one, but I like how Vanderaa came into the UFC, or is coming in off of a really solid, dominant win. I think his confidence is going to be there, whereas Spivak, I think, has been shaken, has not looked as confident thus far in the UFC, and is not fighting to his full potential. I think Vanderaa is going to bring it. I think he recognizes his opportunity, and he's going to capitalize. We're going with Jared the Mountain Vanderaa in this one. All right, let's go over them one more time. We have Figueiredo, Ferguson, Moicano, Holland, Gane, Pineda, Janaroba, Quartaniero, Hooper, and Vanderaa to round things out. All right, so if you'd like to get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast, please write me at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with me on Twitter at MMAFightPicks01. All right, so we got some more fights coming at us fast and furious. Let's just take a quick look here about the upcomings. We have Thompson versus Neal next week on the 19th. That card is coming together pretty nicely. Greg Hardy's actually going to be back on a ticket. Marcin Tybura. Jose Aldo will be on that one. Looking pretty solid overall for a fight night. Obviously, we did miss out on Hamza versus Leon Edwards, so it's kind of a bummer. And then that kind of closes out for the year. We have nothing scheduled the week after or leading into the first of the year. We'll be back, I guess, after that for January 16th with Holloway versus Cater. And that card is still just coming together with only 2 other fights on it, none really worth noting right now. But until I speak with you again next time, happy fight picking.